Live from Quito, Ecuador, I'm Swaini Gray and this is From the South, the daily news brief from Tell Us Your English. And we start this new edition right now. Thank you for joining us. The dialogue between the Venezuelan government and the opposition has stalled. Hopes had been high for an agreement at Thursday's fifth round of talks in the Dominican Republic. The government delegation arrived as planned, but the opposition decided not to show up. The head of the government's team said the opposition's pretext that Venezuela's interior minister had accused them of revealing the whereabouts of an armed group that was dismantled on Monday was false.
They insult us on social media. It doesn't matter. Peace is much more important to us, and the coexistence among Venezuelans. They threaten us with sanctions. It doesn't matter to us. We will continue with these talks. What we won't do is step back from the development of our social, political, electoral, and economic agenda. The plans of the Bolivarian government of President Nicolás Maduro to advance with political, social, and economic issues continue without delay.
One of the lead mediators for the talks, the former Spanish Prime Minister, José Luis Rodríguez Zapatero, called on all sides and the EU to keep pushing for an agreement.
The situation in Venezuela demands the greatest effort, the highest responsibility. I appeal to the international community. I appeal to all governments. I appeal to the European Union so they are up to the responsibility that's being presented and so they contribute, so the government and opposition are able to arrive at an agreement.
The delay in those talks come as opposition parties in Venezuela have their last chance to register for this year's presidential election. But so far, only one party has confirmed its participation. Our correspondent in Caracas, Freddie Gillingham, has more.
Venezuela's presidential election is set to be taking place this year. However, the opposition is looking more divided than ever. Let's just go back and recap last December in 2017, the last election to take place in Venezuela. Three of the main opposition parties, the First Justice Party, the Democratic Action and the Popular Will, all boycotted that vote. Well, today and yesterday was the last time that these parties could re-register. As a result of that boycott, the ANC did set up a new re-verification process that these parties who boycotted that vote needed to undergo. Today and yesterday are, like I said, the last days they can register. The Democratic Action is the only party out of those three main parties that has declared that they will be re-registering. This is all very confusing. Let's not forget that just yesterday, during the dialogue in Santo Domingo, the opposition cancelled those peace dialogues. So at the moment it's looking quite dubious. However, the election still hasn't been designated a date yet, but we'll just have to wait and see if the opposition manage to run.
We thank Freddie for that report. Thousands of indigenous people in the Amazon city of Puerto Maldonado came out to greet Pope Francis on the first full day of his visit to Peru. The Amazon communities in Peru are fighting to defend their land rights, and they hope the pontiff could encourage the government to allow them to return to their territories. A busy first full day for Pope Francis in Peru. Our correspondent in Peru, Jorge Gestoso, breaks down what we can expect during his visit.
Today, Pope Francis is going to Puerto Maldonado. He's going to highlight the problems with environment, especially with the Amazonia. Definitely, he's going to meet with indigenous people coming from the north of Peru, but also from neighboring countries like Brazil, like Bolivia, and even Ecuador. He's going to bring to the attention of the public issues like deforestation, illegal mining, human trafficking, and also prostitution that most definitely is taking place on that region. President PPK, as they call here, which is President Kuczynski, is going to wait for him at the end of the day. He's going to meet with the president at the presidential palace at the end of the day. During the day, he's going to be precisely in Puerto Maldonado, and in the early afternoon, he's going to fly back to Lima, meet with the president, and come back to the Catholic Church, where he's going to meet with some church authorities. It's going to be the first day. Tomorrow he's going to leave to the north, to the city of Trujillo, and he's going to end up the 3 days visit here in Lima with a massive mass that at least 1.2 million people are expected to be attended. We get back to you now.
We thank Jorge Gestoso for that report. As we heard, the rights of indigenous people are at the top of the Pope's agenda in Peru, as they were in Chile.
Practitioners of Andean rituals have gathered in Lima with one objective. They want Pope Francis to make amends for the Church's takeover of the sacred Inca temple, Coricancha. The Spanish demolished the temple in Cusco after taking the gold they found and built the Catholic Santo Domingo Church on top of its ruins.
We are members of the Atún Ayllu Coricancha, a spiritual Andean brotherhood, and we came here to Lima specifically to bring a message, a letter on account of the arrival of Pope Francis, to whom we ask very kindly to begin a horizontal dialogue with the representatives of our Andean people who practice their ancestral worldview, and that this dialogue allows us to recover our temple of the sun, the sacred Coricancha, that has been in the hands of the Catholic Church for more than 500 years.
These believers say, as the Church has the Vatican, their Vatican is Coricancha. Meantime, another indigenous community, the Iseha, is also making its case for land rights. They want Pope Francis to mediate their battle for ancestral lands that have been threatened by rampant gold mining, illegal logging, and drug trafficking. The Iseha are reportedly Peru's smallest indigenous group, and they believe they have been sidelined.
We have been held back for some time from free transit through the forest where our fathers and grandfathers work around. Now they're asking us for papers and payments to live here. Before, nobody asked us our name, and this isn't what we want. The oldest among us don't understand such a word. This was all our home.
Members of the Iseha community will raise their concerns with the Pope on Friday. They will be part of some 3,500 people from indigenous groups in Peru, Bolivia, and Brazil to meet with Pope Francis.
After traveling to the Amazon region, Pope Francis will be going to Trujillo in the north of Peru, which was badly hit by floods last year. Thousands of families lost their homes and haven't received help to this day. Veronica in South went to hear what hopes people have there for the Pope's visit.
Buenos Aires is one of the poorest districts in Trujillo. It has 30,000 residents, and more than half of them were badly affected by intense rain caused by the coastal El Niño phenomenon. This forsaken place will be visited by Pope Francis.
Mr. Pope will visit us. Oh, he should give us some support, right?
Maybe he can see how we live and hopefully do something for us.
People seem to have lost hope after a year without receiving any help. They survive among the debris waiting for the next rainy season, which might sweep away what's left of their property. One of the 130,000 families made homeless now lives here after the coastal El Niño phenomenon destroyed so many buildings in the north of Peru. This one is an example of that. And here, people live in deplorable conditions without light or drinking water. The authorities haven't done a single thing to help. The promises of rebuilding made by the central, regional and local governments vanished away with time, until a few weeks ago when an urban planning company arrived.
They have arranged some of the piles of dirt just because the Pope is coming. They just cleaned the path through which he will pass. They cleaned that track, but the rest is still a mess.
Everything is destroyed, abandoned. We are abandoned. They have just invested money in fixing some holes so the Pope can pass through here, but they forgot about the rest.
From the $250 million allocated a year ago to rebuilding work in the North Buenos Aires district has only received paving for its main avenue, which is where the Pope Mobile will pass, But not even this holy visit brings back the people's faith in miracles.
Miracles? There are no miracles anymore.
Él tendría que intervenir, como se dice,
He should do something or tell the people responsible to do something, but they won't do it.
porque esto no lo van a hacer.
This is just a thing of the moment.
Pasajera nada más.
They hope Pope Francis will bring a message that can stir the awareness of the political groups that have forsaken their people.
The Pope was defending Bishop Juan Barrios, whom he appointed in 2015 to head a small diocese in Chile. Barrios had been accused of protecting a priest who was found guilty in 2011 of abusing teenage boys. Okay, so we're having some issues with that story, so we're going to go to a break. Stay with us. Thank you for joining us. The development of Venezuela's Plan de Patria, which is the government's blueprint for 2019 to 2025, continues moving forward. This national plan is being debated in public assemblies all over the country. Proposals are being registered online, and the debates will continue until the end of January.
These young people are building their own home. This is part of the Gran Misión Vivienda de Venezuela initiative, to build a worthy, self-made home on reclaimed land. In this case, the building is 90% ready. When it's finally done, 23 families will live here. Turning these types of social projects into law is one of the proposals for the 2019-2025 National Plan.
We need every country to gain awareness about what self-management really means and how to organize with your neighbors without relying on the state, without relying on government, but on our own organizational skills to build our homes.
Through organizing, we can achieve all of our dreams for the future, for our kids and our families. So here we are, a self-managed organization with revolutionary principles based on humility, unity, and fighting spirit.
Public assemblies for proposing additions to the national plan are taking place in every neighborhood and district. Initiatives from the People's Movement were taken directly to Caracas mayor, and among the most important requests is to build productive and autonomous communities.
The means and work ethic used to build this beautiful communal work must be established as one of the principal inclusions to the 2019-2025 National Plan.
Debates for the national plan's development are taking place all over Venezuela, and all proposals stay registered in the national plan's official website. Thursday to Saturday will see 3 days of intense work to debate issues for the international agenda, which the government says must always stand in defense of Venezuela's sovereignty.
We must talk about the entire plan, and international relations intersect with most of it. If we talk about independence, what do we mean? If we talk about safeguarding lives, what do we mean? Everything relates to the world at large. The construction of socialism goes through international, economic, political, and social relations.
We're not promoting an amalgamation of ideas. What is happening is an integration of ideas. This is not a rhetorical exercise. Convening assemblies has political, educational, and conscientious significance. What is being debated in the assemblies is not a game. It will be the fundamental premise of the plan.
The economy will be the plan's linchpin, with the most important topics being how to combat the perceived economic war being waged against the country and ways to develop the petro as the basis for Venezuela's financial system.
Protests in Brazil continue over public transportation, this time over plans to privatize 2 metro lines in Sao Paulo. We go to our correspondent, Ignacio Limas, in Sao Paulo.
2 lines of the Sao Paulo metro system are being auctioned right now by the government of the Social Democrat Party and Governor Gerardo Alckmin. Lines 5 violet and 17 gold are being sold as part of a wide package of privatizations in the city and the state of Sao Paulo. President Michel Temer wants to privatize public services, as well as parks, markets, and theaters across the city. Workers from the metro company and students protested the action outside the stock exchange amidst the heavy police presence. A judge had suspended the plan initially, but then the injunction has since been lifted. There have been large protests in Sao Paulo against the privatization of public services as part of the neoliberal cuts that Brazil is living.
120 nurses and physicians from the Posadas Hospital in Argentina were dismissed this week. This follows the massive layoffs that the government of Mauricio Macri has been continuing since the end of December and that have already affected 1,200 workers across the country. More details in the next report.
The austerity measures imposed by the government have affected many public health workers. The Posadas Hospital on the west side of Buenos Aires has been one of the hardest hit.
I've been working in this hospital for 19 years, and on a Monday, I found out that I got laid off along with 100 more employees. Me and most of my colleagues have 15 to 25 years in the public health service. Our contracts didn't provide any benefits for us, so we spoke out, and as a result, we got fired. This is clearly a persecution because most of the workers who are fighting for the rights oppose the adjustment policies of this administration, which reduces investment in public health services.
The massive layoffs were carried out through a new procedure introduced by Mauricio Macri's government. The hospital managers released a short list of employees who would stay in their positions, and whoever was not on the list had to leave their workplace. The layoffs were enforced with a security operation by the federal police, who blocked the hospital entrance.
They told us to check a list stuck on the wall. If your name was not on the list, they sent you to the Human Resources and informed you that your contract had been rescinded 15 days ago. We tried to talk to different managers, but they always gave us the same response. They were too busy. The only manager who talked to us said that he couldn't do anything about it because he is not an important authority on the hospital board.
Different social sectors warn that this adjustment means major cuts in public health provisions. A clear example are the laid-off specialists who had the key job of deciding what kind of treatment cancer patients should receive.
Many of them were specialist nurses and professionals in different medical fields, which other hospitals don't have on their staff. These cuts take this kind of specialist services away from the people.
This Friday, the laid-off workers are holding an assembly to decide how to continue their fight for justice.
Haitians have gathered outside the U.S. Embassy in Port-au-Prince to protest against the comments made by U.S. President Donald Trump, who used vulgar language when referring to Haitian immigrants. Special status given to about 59,000 Haitian immigrants will end next year following a Trump administration ruling last month. Protesters also condemned U.S. foreign policy towards Caribbean countries.
When we consider war, exploitation, domination, occupation, coups, racism, there are so many weapons used by the United States against the countries of the Caribbean and Africa. U.S. foreign policy on Haiti never changed. It's been that way for 200 years.
Mexico has refuted claims from the U.S. President Donald Trump that it is the most dangerous country in the world. In a statement, the Foreign Ministry said even though Mexico has a significant problem with violence, it is plainly false that Mexico is the most dangerous country in the world. Mexico has a murder rate of about 19 per 100,000 inhabitants. The World Bank says that is below other Latin American countries. Still in Mexico, people are speaking up regarding the high cost of the upcoming elections. Our correspondent in Mexico City explains.
The National Electoral Institute has begun preparations to undertake what are now believed to be the most expensive elections in Mexico's history.
I don't think such a large amount of money is necessary. The budget should be rethought.
I think it's an unnecessary expense. The money will be wasted. I think it could definitely be used for other things.
Ahora el apellido Meade te lo vas a encontrar por todo el país.
The Electoral Institute will disperse over $300 million to political parties just for campaigning and publicity expenses. Today we know that in 2012, every party exceeded their authorized campaign budget, which generated sanctions that were not applied until the end of 2017.
El Partido Verde la tiene, no al abuso en las cuotas.
During this year's elections, people will vote for the president, 128 senators, 500 representatives, and 9 governors.
Los gastos electorales.
Electoral expenses in Mexico are wholly superfluous, even when compared to similarly sized countries, and results in Mexico are always conflicting and debatable.
Población similar o un poco más.
Over the past 30 years, elections in Mexico have been mired by fraud accusations by political parties and individuals, a notion the Electoral Institute has been unable to rid themselves of.
Las propuestas que se han orientado en ese sentido.
Proposals given to fix this issue haven't been presented properly. Electronic fraud is still feared. Let's remember Mexico has had experience with system failures, especially back in '88.
Informáticos, sobre todo en el año 88.
On July 1st, nearly 80 million Mexicans will cast their ballot in 155,000 polling places all over the country.
Se estima que durante las elecciones
It's been estimated that the 2018 elections will cost about $2.4 billion, a figure that's very close to the cost of rebuilding every home destroyed during last September's earthquake.
Pablo Pérez García, Telesur, Ciudad de México.
Indigenous leader Maria Magdalena Kuchuk, famous for her activism against a Guatemalan mining company, has been arrested. Our correspondent, Santiago Bouton, has more.
Indigenous leader Maria Magdalena Kuchuk was arrested by the National Police after doing a translation at a hearing for a land claim. The court charged her of misappropriation and threats. Maria Magdalena Kuchuk is a recognized Mayan leader in the Izabal region and is also part of the resistance movement against CGN mining company, Pronico. Various social organizations have issued a statement demanding her prompt release. The Rigoberta Menchú Foundation has asked authorities to guarantee her physical integrity and respect her constitutional rights.
Dominica's Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries will distribute grants to help farmers restore their businesses. $7 million in funds will be administered by the Aid Bank. The money is meant to ease the burden on farmers who suffered tremendous losses from Hurricane Maria in 2017. And Jamaican Prime Minister Andrew Holness has declared a state of emergency in the parish of St. James to address rising crime. This means security forces operating in the parish now have extraordinary powers, and some public rights of civilians have been suspended. The Prime Minister says crime and violence is escalating at such a rate that public safety is in danger.
And we have declared a state of public forces are expected.
And we'll be back very soon, so stay with us. Turkish artillery fired into Syria's Afrin region in what Ankara said was a start of a military campaign against the Kurdish-controlled area. The cross-border bombardment took place after days of threats from Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan to crush the Syrian Kurdish YPG militia. Direct military action against territory held by Kurdish militia would open a new front in Syria's civil war. Living conditions for refugees in Greece are reaching critical levels. Our correspondent in Greece, Habai Abide, tells us more about the situation of refugees seeking asylum in other European countries.
We're in Chios, in one of the islands close to Turkey, and you can see behind me the Turkish shore, specifically the city of Çeşme, one of the areas where the most refugees have come from, and where there is currently about 15 to 20% of refugees arriving by sea from Turkey. Here we can see the Frontex operation, an initiative of the EU frontier policy, aimed at intercepting these arrivals. Pyle is one of the largest refugee camps in Greece. It can currently hold approximately 800 people, but now the population is 3 times that figure, to almost 2,000 people. This camp has seen a transformation in the last couple of months. its expansion hopefully guaranteeing a better facility for asylum seekers. Yesterday we confirmed that it is completely full. We can't show you images because police forbade us from filming, telling us we didn't have a government permit, which we have requested on numerous occasions. Otherwise, it is impossible to film inside Vial. They confirmed that they haven't given out permits for any journalist in months. This raises concerns over the living conditions of some parts of the camps that we can't visit. These asylum seekers are here, not because they want to, but they intend to move to other areas, and they are passing by the islands to reach continental Greece. We will keep you updated.
We thank Abai Abide for that report. California's Attorney General reminded state workers that they can be fined $10,000 for revealing information to immigration agents under a new state law. At the beginning of the year, a new law turned California into a sanctuary state, the first in the country. The bill forbids public officials from giving information about their employees to federal authorities. It also prohibits businesses from voluntarily providing data to immigration officials or allowing them to take information without a court order. Now let's have a look at some other news from around the world.
U.S. senators adjourned late Thursday without voting on a bill to fund the government beyond Friday midnight deadline. Although the senators have resumed the debate, Republicans and Democrats are still split on immigration. Lawmakers had two options: agree to a one-month temporary spending measure known on Capitol Hill as continuing resolution, or shut down the government until funding could be agreed on. A deadly storm in northwest Europe has killed at least 9 people. Violent gales battered the Netherlands, Germany and Belgium, toppling trees and trucks, bringing down power lines and grounding aircraft and halting road and rail traffic. One of the continent's busiest travel hubs, Amsterdam Schiphol Airport, was forced to briefly cancel all flights as winds gusted up to 140 kilometers an hour. Thai cops have nabbed a Pakistani citizen who may have been involved in supplying fake passports to Islamic State operatives. 52-year-old Muhammad Iqbal was arrested in mid-January in a Bangkok suburb in possession of Singaporean and Indian fake passports, as well as plates and laminates to forge entry visas to France, Italy and Spain.
It was only for the Islamic State group. People will think he only did it for the ISIS, but he sold the fake passports to anyone who wanted to buy, made to order, so it can be used by anybody in any kind of occupation.
A Russian teenager attacked a group of younger students with an axe, injuring at least 7 people before setting his school on fire in Siberia. Earlier this week, investigators opened a criminal case into a knife attack that injured 15 people at a school in the city of Perm. New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern has announced on Facebook that she is expecting her first baby in June, making her the country's first leader to give birth while in office, and only the second elected world leader after Pakistan's Benazir Bhutto, who gave birth to a daughter in 1991 while she was the Prime Minister.
I am not the first woman to multitask. I'm not the first woman to work and have a baby. I know these are special circumstances, but there'll be many women who will have done this well before I have.
We've come to the end of this daily news brief. For these and many other stories, you can find them on our website, tellusyourtv.net/English. And join us on social media, Facebook and Instagram. For Tell Us Your English, I am Swaini Gray. Thank you so much for watching.